Did you say Burger? No.
Yep.
Panther Nation, the C3 podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com.
I had fun, man. Just out, you guys joking. We working at the same time. Putting the work in as a team. Like I said, I'm just glad to be with the guys.
My favorite night of the week.
We're going to go out there, and we're playing to win. We're not out here just to show up. We're out here to win.
I don't want guys that want to win. Because really, who doesn't? Nobody wants to win. Everybody wants to win. I want players that hate to lose.
This embodies everything that we are as a team, as an organization. Our motto is keep pounding. And that's what we do. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, what is up, Panther fans? It's your boy, the Professor, a.k.a. Tony Dunn, and this is the C3 podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. I do it each and every week with my homeboys, Joe Riolano here from the Low Country, Mel Mayock in the QC. Guys, what is up?
What's up? What's going on, fellas? Tuesday night. Too much fun, man. Lots to talk about.
Man, I cannot wait to get this show going. I missed out last week, so I feel like I've got some catching up to do.
Yeah, you do.
Fantastic. Guys, I'd love for everybody in the chat room, thank you for joining us tonight. If you could, give us a thumbs up on the audio sound, because you never know with the way things go and how we roll, if things work or if they don't. Guys, tonight's show is Animal Thunderdome, episode 17.37. The animals are going crazy and wild. The Eagles beat the Panthers. That shouldn't happen in the animal kingdom. And the Bears are almost kind of good for a moment. That's really freaking weird. So tonight we're going to be breaking down all of that. The Panthers lost at home, even though we had multiple chance after chance. We're going to figure out what went wrong with that. We're also going to preview the Bears matchup, and we've got a special guest from the Bears Brothers podcast, Brandon Hazlet, or Hazlet. We'll have to ask him if it's, I'm pretty sure it's Hazlet. Who will be on with us at 9:35 Eastern Time joining us. I was actually just on their show right before, so they're already getting pumped up to play the Panthers. They're coming off a win, so there's going to be plenty to talk about. Luke Kuechly and his non-concussion concussion. Lots of some small movement on the roster, and we're going to get into all of those things plus more. So guys, if you're watching on YouTube right now, if we could just go ahead and smash that like button, folks. Is that what we need is your support to help this show grow, and you can do that wherever you're listening, on Periscope, on YouTube, on Facebook Live, by giving us a like and giving us a share and leaving a comment. We encourage everybody to subscribe to our podcast where you get podcasts. If it's on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, make sure that you subscribe and tell somebody about this show, because we've been breaking it down for about 5 years every Tuesday night, and we're bringing more and more content beyond just Tuesday night now, and we need your support. You can also find the Patreon link in the show notes, and that's it, guys. Let's jump in. Panthers lose on Thursday Night Football. I feel like, I don't know, I'm undecided if I like Thursday night games. Joe, do you like Thursday night games?
Honestly, I do. I'm just a fan of having more football, but I would enjoy them more if we won every now and then when we played on Thursday night.
Yeah, that helps it. The Panthers lose. They host the Philadelphia Eagles under the big lights on the national spotlight. 2 4-1 teams. The Eagles come to town and win 28-23. And to be honest, if you watched that game and you didn't know the score, and I guess if you didn't see the Panthers score their touchdowns, you would probably think that the Eagles won by much more, or at least there were times that the Eagles looked dominant, and one of those places was on the rushing game. They have the second best rushing attack in the league, and I tell you, I mean, not rushing attack, rushing defense. And I tell you one thing, after Thursday night, there's no way it's not first now.
Oh,
That Fletcher,
right.
Fletcher Cox is, man, Fletcher Cox is at a different level, man. We love KK, but he's at a whole nother level than KK.
I can't believe how bad he made Turner look. He made him, Turner's an all-pro, pro bowler.
Yeah.
He made him look like, third stringer. Whew. He really used
The
him.
crazy thing about that is Fletcher Cox was almost a no-go. So he's not even playing 100% strength.
He was the difference in the game.
Yeah.
He was the difference. Yep.
So tell me, Joey, or actually, Mel, we'll open it up to you right now, is tell us what went wrong on this running attack.
Oh, man, I tell you, I'm not 100% sure, but I really, I wrote an article this week, put it up out there, put it on Facebook, got a lot of conversation going. Obviously our offensive line's not blocking up to where it should be. And some of it is scheme. I watched every run play in that Eagles game. There were times where the offensive line is blocking their men, but nobody's getting out to the linebackers. So the linebackers, I think a big part of it, honestly, Tony, is there's not the Ted Ginn factor. There's not the fear of somebody going deep. So folks are crowding the box, and they're not getting back on their ankles or on their heels at all. And they're playing run first. The linebackers are up there, and there's not enough people to block. 9 in the box, and they're stuffing it. And then when there are opportunities, Jonathan Stewart's burst is lacking. It really is. And I'm all for putting Cameron Artis Payne in there for a few tries. He was killing it. He was our number 1 rusher in the preseason. I think you split the carries a little bit between him and Stu, and you take CMC for a little while, relegate him out to the Julian Edelman role out in the slot.
Joey, what's going on with this running attack, man? First of all, can it be? This has to be the worst rushing game in the history of the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was, to say it was miserable. That's a pretty strong word, but that's not really strong enough.
Well, Cam Newton was the only difference to keep the entire running game from being miserable. If it wasn't for him, we would have negative yards or maybe one pop.
Oh, yeah, is that I think we finished the night with 80 yards. 70 of them came from Cam Newton, and 10 of them came on or from a reverse from Curtis Samuel. So you got one player who's not a running back, and all of your rushing yards coming from your quarterback. Look, I tell you one thing is that you really shouldn't have, after the first quarter or the first 18 minutes of that game, I don't think you should call a running play that isn't with Cam. And I know that you have to keep people honest, but I have never seen a run game look so anemic. It was done. Every run play was done before it got started. That wasn't with Cam and with Carey.
That running game, you use the word anemic. I'm going to say exsanguinated. That's the word I'm going to use.
I raise you, you're anemic.
Who is the professor now?
Of its blood. Not was the blood running low. It was completely drained of the blood.
But hey, let me set the tone for this show. I'm excited because we were anemic running, or whatever that other word was. I'm not even smart enough to know what that word was.
Sanguic?
Exsanguinated. I mean, all the blood is gone.
What I heard,
a vampire got a hold of us.
Right.
There you go, like totally bleeded out, right?
Right.
So, but the good news is the worst run game ever. I mean, that run game was to the passing game, which was the Randy Fasani game, which he had a 0.0 quarterback rating. This was the equivalent in our run game. It was the worst in franchise history. But the good news is we had our worst rush game. We lost Luke Kuechly early in the game. We had 2 just coinky-dink type of turnovers in our own red zone. And we still had shots to win that game. So if we play Philadelphia again, which I have a feeling we will, I'm not going to be going into that game, shaking in my boots. We can hang with those guys. It's just a matter of being more consistent. I don't like Jonathan Stewart catching the ball. Matter of fact, I'm starting to not like Jonathan Stewart so much.
Yeah,
Okay, so here's in the chat room, guys. Joey, in the chat room, Adam said this, is that if Jonathan Stewart doesn't show some improvement, I think this was Adam Sanders that said this, if Jonathan Stewart doesn't show improvement in the next 2 games, that it's time to give the lion's share of the carries to Christian McCaffrey.
Well, I don't know that that's necessarily the right play either. McCaffrey's not a 25 carry kind of guy. 25 touches is one thing, but not 25 carries. You gotta have a power back. You gotta have a big back to kind of balance.
Why do you think Cameron Artis-Payne's not getting a shot?
I don't know. That's a good question.
This is how this team and this coaching staff goes, is that they will not do that until they are on the verge of being fired. I'm sorry, I think that's what it is I just think. Now look, is Jonathan Stewart, what he does is, he is somewhat reliable. I guess the one thing you're going to say is this, is that and someone said this in the chat room, is that if he doesn't miss that pass that leads to an interception, you win that game. That was a dagger. I think there were 2 turnovers in basically in our fields, and I don't think they were on Cam.
No, that first one was Fletcher Cox.
Yeah,
crushed his arm as he was passing it.
Well, he hit Cam and made the ball kind of fly up in the air. So,
yeah, that's just right. That was just a great play by Cox. Tip the cap, but that Jay Stu, that was the difference in the game. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that one's tough. So I think though what we have seen is we've seen the signs of Jonathan Stewart's decline last year. We saw it, but the problem is Jonathan Stewart can mask so what he has is now his ceiling is not high anymore. But he can mask how low his floor is because he just runs like a monster truck. And
but I think we saw it. I think we saw the floor. -8 yards or -4 yards rushing and a turnover.
Yeah, I think he did show the floor, but I think I'm with Carlton on this. Carlton Cohen says run blocking is horrible. Doesn't matter.
That's true.
Who is back there? I don't know. Can anybody explain to me why we have a harder time run blocking than we do pass blocking? To me, I feel like pass blocking would be the more difficult thing to maintain, particularly when Cam needs like a half more second, or he benefits from a half more second than a lot of quarterbacks. And I know that they were getting after us, but really they swarmed on rushing downs, and Cam was all right on passing downs. He stood in there and stayed in that pocket, and they did okay. Why is run blocking, hat on hat, man on man, why is that such a struggle for this team? Are they just what's the deal?
My opinion is like what I was saying earlier. If you watch it, there's some good blocking going on, but the numbers games are not there. I really think, last year it seemed like the blueprint was to take cheap shots at Cam.
There were some plays that were well blocked, but there were some plays where our offensive linemen just could not get to the Eagles' defensive players they were supposed to match up on because they were so fast going to the ball. They outran the offensive linemen. Royson, as much as I like him, poor guy, he got beat up and down in this game.
This is what Cody Lackney says. Cody Lackney says, I can explain it, Tony. We're missing Ryan Khalil. I said this in the post-game reaction, is that it's crazy how much he matters.
Yes, it really is.
Now, guys, back in the draft, I had called for the Panthers to take Elfine, and I'm sorry I forget his first name, but in the second round, who now is in Minnesota starting at center. I called for us to get the replacement, and I really think that was a mistake passing on that. We had a good, solid stud center for the future in the middle there. Makes a big difference. The call on the protections is vastly underrated. Larson is doing an okay job, a good job one-on-one, but he is not Ryan Clark.
Yeah, it's been difficult for him. It's just a downgrade. It's kind of like this. It doesn't matter if David Mayo plays well or not. It's just a downgrade.
Panthers move their linemen. They like to send them out, to pull them, to send them around the corner, have them come across and pick up a linebacker or an interior defensive end, and he can't do it. He cannot get to the defender when he has to go.
Khalil was a full participant today in practice.
I think, that's good news that it sounds like he could be coming back. They think there's signs of this. It's still strange. I just want to get over this. The misdirection that they throw at you is so ridiculous. Yeah. You guys called it. You were like, a crick in the neck, my ass. Something is going on. This was something more. This was more serious. I don't know if it's serious as much as it wasn't. He slept on it wrong, right? I think too. Another thing that I was talking about in our reaction show is that I stayed up late and tried to bring you guys a little talk after the game, and there's some serious questions. I think Mel, you raise a great point that has been underestimated, and that is the personnel out there and the way they're being used. On downs where or where you think it's going to be a run, can you cheat defensively? And it just seems like Christian McCaffrey is not enough of a threat in the passing game, especially when you're trying to fake him for runs as well, or, that they can start to crowd the box. They don't seem to be using. I still don't understand why we see Devin Funchess running the 9 route. I guess that's what it called, that deep route, that go route. And then you see Curtis Samuel dragging across the middle of the field. I don't understand that. And then I think the last thing about this that you've brought up, Mel, and this goes back, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but there may have been some real errors made in the draft for the Carolina Panthers in the last couple of years that were undersold by some of the smaller moves that Dave Gettleman made. Not going, if you think about it, is that we really only have one impact player per draft over the last 3 years that we've added to the team.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get ahead when you only get one. I mean, if you think about now, I think the jury's still out on this year, but just say if Christian McCaffrey, let's just say Christian McCaffrey, impact player, but what have we not seen? We haven't seen Curtis Samuel make a difference. We understand why, but it's just it hasn't been the case. Taylor Moton is not on the field. While it could be a good addition later on, it's not doing anything right now. But we'll give them time. If you go back to last year, you're talking about Vernon Butler. You get Bradbury. He's the impact player of that draft. Other than that, there's an argument to be made that these guys really haven't made an impact. And then you keep going back to the Shaq Thompson one. Is that, and I don't know if that has something to do. We could have really used a guy from 2 years ago doing what Kelvin Benjamin is ultimately doing, but in the 3rd round. Well, I guess Trey Turner, but that's still 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we're missing that 5th, 6th, 7th round type of player who's really showing out. Somebody like Captain Munderland did back in the day.
Yeah, Corn Elder got hurt. There's some bad luck there. And then here, I guess here's some news, guys. Zach Sanchez is back. Speaking of 4th rounders, Zach Sanchez is back.
Bringing back the third amigo. The third amigo.
Yeah, he's back on the practice squad.
Just a couple of things I saw. Mel, Slim in the chat room said it's Pat Elfine.
There you go. Thank you, Slim.
And then he also said you need to be interviewed for the Panthers GM job.
If I could just remember names, I probably would have gotten it.
Yeah, Landon Collins, though. I think this is that look, and it's not a referendum on the guys that necessarily and what they have or haven't done, is there have been some players that were there for us that really we seem to have. So, yeah, you could say Devin Funchess is starting to play well, but there was also some other guys around that area that could have made some big differences. Similarly, that Shaq Thompson draft. Was it Shaq Thompson draft that it was Landon Collins?
That's right.
You know, and you get some other ones. We haven't gone after a safety. There are some, and I want to go to this, guys. The defense with the 20 sacks that we had.
That's pretty stellar. That's pretty
stellar.
It
is. It is great. But the problem that I have here is this. Is that number, A, sustainable, and B, really reflective of how good this team is? Right now, 50% of the sacks have come from two players. They have come from Julius Peppers and KK Short. We blitzed on I think we may have blitzed on 80% of the downs against the Eagles. And I know a lot of people are celebrating that as aggressive play calling, but I don't think that's aggressive play calling. I think that's out of need.
Do you? I don't know. I don't know. I just.
Why do you got to blitz that much? Is that, and when you have a secondary that's kind of trashy, what that tells me is this: is that if Julius Peppers isn't in there, and KK isn't beating his guy, you don't have faith in your 4-man front getting a rush. So you got to send someone, or unless it's just this, is that you got too many linebackers out there, so you might as well blitz one of them.
You know, here's my thought on that. Part of the thinking was, he's a young player, he's a young quarterback, so
right.
You know, he's not used to having to try to dissect the defense and figure out where the blitz is coming from, which, you know, when
it worked a lot too.
Yeah. I think he did. He handled it fairly well.
I think you'll see it again this week too, with another young quarterback coming in.
I think you'll see more of it.
Yeah.
I think you'll see more of it because he's way less experienced than Wentz.
But guys, with all this blitzing, where in the heck is Thieves Avenue? I think it's fallen off the map. It's totally missing. It's not even on the map.
Yeah, I think we've only had one interception all year.
And that was by Luke Kuechly.
Yeah, by a linebacker. I was asked about this on the Bears podcast, the Bears Brothers podcast, and right now I think it's because there's a lack of talent in the secondary. I think that first of all, James Bradbury is not necessarily a ball hawk. He might be a good physical defender that can stick with guys, but I think he only has like one interception. I feel like he had one against San Francisco last year. How about this? Did you see that he got his first career sack ever in his entire life this past game?
What? Really?
Yeah. He tweeted out that he had never and he said going back to Pop Warner.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a great blitz. Great timing on that call to send the corner.
So all right. So why is it? Why is this? Is it injury? Is it? I think part of it is, as Adam Sandler says. Adam Sandler. I've done this.
We got big time in the audience.
Sanders is he's way cooler than Adam Sandler, who doesn't listen to our podcast. He said yes, one interception in 2 years. Daryl Worley, is it true that Daryl Worley got benched in this game, or was he just nicked up?
I think you see a change to the guard. I think Seymour is taking over that spot. I really do. And Worley tweeted out kind of a ominous tweet today. I can't remember exactly what it was. It's something like God has his plans, or something somebody would normally say when they get cut. So I feel like it was a formal demotion. Yeah, I think it was a formal demotion.
I tell you this, he deleted some tweets. He got in a fight well, not a fight. He started arguing with fans on Twitter. And if
Oh,
you're a
never a
pro
smart
athlete,
idea.
if you're a
Don't
pro
do it.
athlete, you should probably not argue with people on Twitter. Not because it really matters. I don't really care that you do, but nothing really genuinely good is going to come out of good for you.
Right.
A celebrity on Twitter of causing trouble. His name is Anthony Ballard, who is maybe the most glass half full dude you've ever met in your entire life, or half empty, or whatever it is.
He's a pessimist?
He is the biggest pessimist in the whole entire planet. He's also the one who dug up those tweets on Jordan Rodriguez. So he is the Panther fan that went through 5 years of tweets to find some dirt on Jordan Rodriguez. He was the one that got into an argument with Daryl Worley about him being benched. And now I went and looked up Daryl Worley's account, and those tweets are not there anymore. So I think he deleted those tweets. I think my answer is this: there's a lack of talent in that secondary, guys. Yeah. I think, and you could use Kurt Coleman back, who is a ball hawk, and Jarris Bird just hasn't had enough opportunity. He's still, he hasn't been bad, but you can't expect him at this point to come off the couch and revitalize a secondary that was struggling as it was. So we've talked about Trey Turner getting abused. I will say this: Trey Turner just got made look foolish. Fletcher Cox's hand game is crazy. Trey Turner looked like his arms were just waving around, and he was just trying to find something to put them on at times. It was crazy.
It was.
My thing is next, Luke Kuechly, concussed, then unconcussed. Luke Kuechly gets ear holds in that game. I think it was the second quarter. Not entirely sure about that. It could have been the third. So
that was a big dude that hit him.
Yeah, he got hit by a guard, or I think it was a guard, and he was pulling. And Luke Kuechly was zeroing in on the quarterback. He looked like a missile that just got intercepted by a scud.
Right.
And he got blasted. It hit him in his shoulder. His whole head waggled around. He looked hurt. If you saw him, you know why they pulled him out. They diagnosed him with a concussion. We're sitting there going, the concussion collar didn't do what everybody was hollering about. Those NASA scientists, we need our money back. And then all of a sudden, a couple of days later, it says that Luke Kuechly has avoided a concussion and that he is in the protocol as precaution. Guys, tell me, how do you feel about Luke Kuechly's chances in playing this week? And are you glad they took it cautious, and do you buy no concussion? I do.
I think it's possible because of the type of hit that it was. It wasn't a direct hit to the head. So yeah. I believe that perhaps saves him from getting a concussion. I hope, if he really didn't get a concussion, I hope he's ready to play. We can certainly use him. And Shakir just told me that Coleman will be back Sunday.
What?
Yeah. That's what I just said in the chat room. Now, I haven't heard that, so I'm not able to confirm it. But he said we're getting a major boost on defense Sunday.
Well, Rivera had said today that Coleman did not look like he was back doing full self yet. So I would.
They said he was moving around well in practice, but I think there's no need to rush Kurt Coleman back against Trubisky, who has struggled. He's not putting people over the top. He's not taking the top off of defenses and going deep. He has struggled with the deep ball. I think you can get away with it for this game, and I think you probably should.
Don't sleep on Trubisky though, man. He's a young, unproven guy, but He is an athlete with a strong arm.
Yeah, it's so strong he overthrows his receiver by 20 yards out of bounds. Like he just throws it. Like he just heaves it. I watched the game. I watched the game.
I thought about you, my man. When remember our conversation about Pilardi and the left-footed punter?
Oh yeah.
Early in the year, and you were like, "Oh,
yeah, that's right." And they were like, "Oh God, look at these left-footed punters." And then they tried to say, and then Romo tried to say, like, "Yeah, and New England only uses left-footed punters."
It's true. It's true.
It's true. It's true. Cody Lackney says this. I think Luke will have to be told not to play anymore by his family and friends. I think he loves football too much to give it up right now. I don't think he needs to yet. I think we got lucky with this. I do think if this would have been a real concussion, that you have to start having those conversations at some point.
Right.
I think if he can make it through this season with no concussion, that discussion can be put off for a while with good faith and diligence. All right. So any last things from Mel, you wanted to razzmatazz me about old TJ Ward. What do you guys say about old TJ Ward?
Well, I'm not razzmatazzing you. I'm just stating the facts. At the beginning of the year when he was a free agent and you were pissed off at the Panthers for not going after him.
Mildly.
Yeah, we said let's talk about it after week 6. Right, and here we are. It's week 6, and there just so happened to be a tweet. I believe it was from from Bill Voth.
It was from Bill Voth, who likes to be like this. By the way, This is Bill Voth's shtick. Like, y'all are not smart enough. We got the master plan.
But guys, when Bill Voth agrees with the professor's like, see, it's the authority, Bill Voth.
He is the authority. He's so smart. He's got the master plan.
Exactly. But they just happen to point out that he is not exactly lighting the world on fire down there in Tampa. Neither is Mike Adams, mind you. So, but Mike Adams only beaten him by 1 spot in these PFF rankings.
Yeah, is that he has been beaten out by Mike Adams, which, though, is embarrassing. But Mike Adams has played well in the last couple of games.
Yeah,
he has not, but he did get beat up in that New England game. He was one of the reasons, one of those touchdowns on 3rd down. I'm going to tell you this, is that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they got lit up by the Arizona Cardinals.
Big time.
There is everybody's PFF rating just went through the tank in that game. Ooh. And I went back and watched part of the game, and TJ Ward totally 100% bit on play action in the red zone, where my man just like ran up to tackle the pile and they threw the ball and it was just like, and I'm pretty sure that play is responsible for about 7 spots.
So the next time you name chase Professor, just remember that.
You know what? That's what I say. Put him in a better system. Put him in a better system. He would have been much better.
That's always the excuse.
Okay. All right. Any last thoughts on this game before we move on?
Well, I will say, talking about Luke Kuechly, I hope he plays. I have a feeling he will not play. I have a feeling they're going to be extra cautious.
We didn't mention this. Mike Shula is back in the crosshairs of Panther Nation. Yeah. And that is, this offensive coordinator is the worst offensive coordinator in the history of offenses because of this game, according to 85% of people. Look, there was a lot of failings on this, and Mike Shula was one of them. My point on the offense on Mike Shula was this: you had 2 chances to win that game late in that match. You had a drive at 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Then you had another one under 2 minutes. And it seemed like, and I don't know if this was Shula or Cam or both of them together, but on 1st, 2nd, 3rd down, they chunked it downfield like 25 yards.
Because they weren't playing a deep safety, which, I mean, just because you don't have a safety back there doesn't mean you automatically chunk it deep.
I agree.
That's probably more on Cam.
Yeah, that's a good question. Is that Cody Lackney says, please do not defend Shula. Don't worry. Mike Shula is going to get his. He's going to get his later on in the show. But before that, we've got to bring in our guest tonight to help preview the show or preview our matchup against the Chicago Bears this week. Brandon Hazlet with the Bears Brothers podcast. Is it Hazlet or Hazlet?
It's Hazlet.
Oh, man. That was my first instinct, and then I changed my mind.
Always stick with your gut, man.
That's right. Brandon Hazlet, tell us a little bit about the Bears Brothers podcast.
Yes, what we are, we're three brothers who have a strong passion for the Chicago Bears, and we just want to bring Bears fans together for a place to hang out immediately after each and every game, and that's what we do. Our post-game show is our bread and butter, so check us out.
That's awesome.
Fantastic. Yeah, I subscribed to them last week, and then they contacted me. So this is fantastic. Brandon, we brought you on to help us preview this match against, the Panthers are coming off a disappointing loss where we squandered a game, and the Bears are coming off a chance where they stole one in like this crazy fashion of trickery and crazy plays, and I don't know how it happened, but you straight dominated until you didn't. And then yeah, I mean, it was it was y'all's game. I felt like until Michael Campanero, who has been a guest on this podcast before.
Yes, he has.
Ran one back like 85 yards ago and I thought was going to be a dagger, and you guys are going to lose it. Tell us just quickly where the Bears are at right now.
Bears are a couple different places depending on the week. Under John Fox, the coach you guys well know, in his time here, we've just kind of failed to be able to execute on one or two plays to get us to a victory more commonly. Of the 27 losses that he's accumulated here in his 3 years in Chicago so far, 14 of them have been decided by a touchdown or less. So really just one or two plays away in each game as far as getting a win. And this time it was the special teams. There was the kickoff return where we thought the guy was touched, so everyone stops playing except for the guy returning the ball. He took it all the way to the house. Then we screwed up on the punt return. So it was the special teams this week, but we'll kind of see where we are on Sunday against the Panthers.
How do you feel about John Fox? How has he been received as a coach? I'm a little stunned that it's his third year. I thought it was his second. It's been that long, I guess, because Denver has been without him for a while now. How do you guys feel about old Foxy?
When he first came in, he was received as a good coach. We all knew that he was a Super Bowl coach, obviously, but he had a lot to come in and fix because the Mark Trestman era kind of put the Bears down the tube for a little while. There was an aging roster with some ego issues, I'll say, and so we knew that he was put in a tough situation. So when we finished 2015 in his first year with 6 wins, it was kind of tough to swallow. It was kind of some disappointment, but at the same time, we know it's a tough situation. Then the following year, I think our patience has sort of dwindled because we dropped down to 3 wins, and that's not exactly what you want to see when you bring in a new coach, is going backwards in the win column. Right. But I still feel optimistic about him because why would you want to get rid of a Super Bowl coach, in my opinion? So that's kind of where I'm at on him. Some fans don't necessarily feel that way, but I'm still a Fox fan.
Guys, did you know, Mel, I don't know, and Joe, if you saw this, but John Fox has run more trick plays in the last 2 weeks than he's run in 2 decades as a coach.
You know what that reminds me of, Tony, is remember the game where it was the Panthers against the Vikings, and he lost total confidence in the quarterback, and we ran the ball every single play. We ran
Yeah.
I mean, not one pass the entire game.
Not a single pass, right? Now, I know that was the offensive coordinator, like you guys mentioned on our show, and not Foxy. I think John Fox has probably been kept out of the offensive meeting rooms there. We have a question in the YouTube chat, and they want to know this: is how do you feel about the Trubisky thing? We've got a live Bears fan in front of us, and it's been it was a joke in the draft among the entire league about how that goes down, and then now he's starting. Are you guys okay with it at this point?
Yes, because he's better than Mike Glennon. And it just showed in the last game against Baltimore when he in overtime when he made the athletic throw to Kendall Wright over the middle for 18 yards, which essentially saved the Bears in overtime in that one, stepping up in a collapsed pocket and kind of getting the ball that far just solely on arm strength because he jumped off his back foot, which is kind of a no-no. But he'll learn as he goes along. And then also he just throws well on the run, because that pass, and then again earlier in the game, he rolled right to get a touchdown pass to Deion Sims, which pressure was coming in his face. He just had to wait just a little bit longer for Sims to get to the end zone, and he was able to make the pass. So his athleticism has been a huge sign of potential for him, and I'm really excited to see where he's going to go as far as his career in Chicago. But just as of right now, Dal Loggins, our offensive coordinator, has him limited. He's only thrown 41 passes through 2 games so far. So
yeah, he's only thrown like 41 passes in his career.
I just saw that. Let me break some news here. Ezekiel Elliott there's been a stay in his suspension.
Oh my God.
So I think he'll be playing this weekend.
Who?
For those who have him on fantasy and who are Cowboy fans.
Wow.
Who'd you say?
Ezekiel Elliott.
There's been a
He's
stay.
back?
He's back.
he's
A
back.
stay in his suspension.
Nice. I got him on one of my fantasy teams. I also was able to scoop up Darren McFadden on a waiver wire in one league, so I could have used that help there. All right, so let's keep going with this the talk about the Bears, so we don't keep Brandon all night. And this is all right. So one of the things I think about Mitchell Trubisky is interesting about this is that he really didn't have a lot of college experience. This is a relatively big gamble based on what scouts are predicting. To me, it's similar to what Blake Bortles was when it comes to Jacksonville, and that is he looks good in a football uniform. He probably was one of the better talents, if not the best talent at the time. Do you believe that he has the chops to become a full-time and a long-time starter? And is it purely based on his athleticism, or do you think that he has the opportunity to evolve into that player?
I think he's got the opportunity to evolve into that player, especially if he can get some better receivers around him. But we've seen the potential from him as far as pocket presence, although it doesn't always necessarily show up. He has shown that he knows when his clock's running out. I think he just needs time, more importantly than anything else, because we were getting into some debates early in the season about whether do you keep playing Mike Glennon and let him sit and learn the playbook, or do you just throw Trubisky in the fire and let him learn through experience? And it just kind of depends where your school of thought is, but I think it was just time to put Trubisky in after Glennon had a couple terrible performances in a row there.
Glennon is terrible. Glennon is awful. I mean, he is awful. And that's what happens when you go to NC State, folks.
Oh, I knew it was coming.
We knew he was bad. I don't know where they came off paying him that much money to come in and play quarterback. That was I mean,
crazy.
Let me ask you this. I guess by the way, my name is Joey Riolano, a.k.a. the freaking Puerto Rican.
Okay.
But I'm glad to have you on the show. Thank you for coming in and joining us.
Absolutely.
After all is said and done, he comes in and he's your starter for the next 8-10 years. The price you paid to get him is worth it.
I think so, especially if he's a starter for that long and we can get a better team around him. I mean, we have the personnel as a team. I think the Bears are underrated, but it's just surrounding him with some better talent. Right now we have a 7th-round wide receiver that the Titans drafted 2 years ago, Trey McBride, starting on one side, an undrafted free agent rookie, Tanner Gentry, who Trubisky has some chemistry with, as we've seen in the preseason here in Chicago, starting on the other side, but neither had targets throughout the game. So I think it's really just going to be patience with him. I think he will eventually become that guy like we were talking about, but it's just a big patience game right now.
Where is Kevin White? Where is Kevin White? Is he not ever going to play?
He's in the trainer's room.
He's in the tub. He's in the tub. But hey, one thing I want to point out that I will say that Chicago, you could argue you guys made the right move. I mean, if you give up something and you get the right player down the road, you don't even remember what you gave up. And at the same time, you look at the quarterback situation in San Francisco. I guarantee you they are wishing they took Trubisky now. Guarantee
absolutely. And the funny
Yeah.
thing is, when you look back at that trade, if we didn't beat the 49ers that season, we would have had the number 2 pick and we wouldn't have had to give up much of anything.
Yeah.
Unless we wanted to move up to number 1.
Oh,
So I
man.
think the games don't matter. They still do.
Yeah.
Your cosmos is all wrapped up in awfulness together. All right. So let's talk about this running game because I drafted Jordan Howard in fantasy football.
Smart.
And I don't know. I felt like I was just listening to everybody saying how it's going to work out. And then Tariq Cohen comes in. And is that how you pronounce his name?
Yes.
All right. And now I'm like,
another North Carolina guy. They got tons of North Carolina guys out there.
He's been amazing. Tell us where is the strength of this running game? Is it just that you got these 2 great running backs? Is the offensive line creating really this running game? Tell us a little bit about this because I feel like this is what the Panthers have to zero in on. If we make you one dimension, if we put this game on Trubisky, I think it's a win, easy for us. If you guys run the ball, then all of a sudden you can give this rookie quarterback a real chance at something. Tell us about this running game and what you see week in and week out from these guys.
Well, early on in the season, you might have seen this in your fantasy team. Jordan Howard wasn't exactly playing the best. Now it's because we were without guard Kyle Long, who brings a lot of fire, a lot of energy, a lot of synergy, like you were talking about on our show with the offensive line and how that's so important. And that's exactly where Jordan Howard was able to make his turnaround was in week 3 against the Steelers when Kyle Long came back, rushing for over 220-plus yards in that game. And he did a similar performance last week against the Ravens. He's just a ground-and-pound kind of guy. He makes his one cut. He's decisive, and whether or not it works, he'll take it, and if not, then it doesn't. And as we've seen in overtime, he was able to break a couple arm tackles because they're trying to strip the football, and he's able to bust it out for 53 yards. So he does have a little bit of speed to him as well. But Tariq Cohen, he's actually the leading receiver on this team with 26 receptions for the year. And he's looking for the home run play. They use him. They're going to use his speed to try and burn the defense. But one thing we've been critical of with the Bears brothers of him is he'll try and stretch the field on pitches or stretch plays too far, so then he's running into the sideline and then you have tackles for a loss because he's looking for that home run play. So when he can be more decisive, he can make guys miss because he's got the small center of gravity. He's just small and elusive. You really have to wrap him up, and that's really how you're going to stop Tariq Cohen. If you can be disciplined and stay in your gaps, then you really limit it to just Jordan Howard.
Did you guys hear that Tariq Cohen is the shortest player to throw a NFL touchdown pass since like 1940?
Yes.
Okay.
It was some crazy year like that.
Doug Flutie is like, dang, of all the records, man, don't go break that.
Joe is a big Doug Flutie fan. When Joe and I were roommates in college, he had Flutie Flakes. The box. That Flutie
And fun
Flakes.
fact, the Bears have 2 players who are not quarterbacks who have the highest passer rating in the league, both perfect, with our punter, Pat O'Donnell, and Tariq Cohen.
Unbelievable.
Wow, that's some interesting trivia there.
Is basically this is what, and you know what's funny is that I go on this weekly radio show on Pirate Radio 1250, and me and my buddy Clip has his own show, The Sports Bar, and I join him on Fridays, and we said, what's it gonna take for the Bears to beat the Ravens? And we were like 7 trick plays. And you know what? Boom! Take that. All right. So you hit on the receiver question for us. Let's turn to the defense. This defense is playing. You know, one of the things is the Bears' defense was kind of a joke for a little while, which is strange.
Yes.
To me, it's strange for me to say those words. Like and then the secondary, how people were saying it was just such trash. Now Kendall, is it Kendall Fuller that's there or Kyle?
Kyle Fuller.
Kyle.
Yeah.
So Kyle Fuller seems to be playing well from what I've heard and what I've seen just in limited watching this team. This defense all of a sudden is really starting to get things going. Tell us, where's the strength of this defense? And how is it going to match up against the Panthers?
Well, the strength of the defense, I think, starts with defensive coordinator Vic Fangio does an excellent job each and every year that he's been here with John Fox. But it all starts in the trenches.
He was here with
Yes.
John Fox, yeah.
Yes. But it all starts in the trenches, because I like to say on our podcast that's where games are won and lost, because I think that's very true. And Akeem Hicks said after the week 1 loss to the Falcons, limiting their run game was key, and it's going to continue to be key for the rest of the season. And it's been true so far. That's where the strength is limiting opposing offenses' rushing games. With Akeem Hicks and Eddie Goldman, a guy who we thought when we drafted him in John Fox's first year as well, thought he had really good potential, but injuries have kind of held him back. And then against the Ravens, he had 6 total tackles, and one of them for a loss. Was a big plug as far as filling up the middle of the defensive line, stopping the run game. Then you go to the next level where without Darrell Freeman and his backup, Nick Kwiatkowski, did the same injury. So now you have Danny Trevathan and Christian Jones. And when Danny Trevathan came back off of the suspension he had after hitting Devontae Adams in the head, which was a brutal hit. But anyway, when he came back off of that, he just looked excited to be there. He looked pumped up, which is something sometimes that the defense doesn't always have. So when he was able to make a couple plays against Joe Flacco and the Ravens, that made the rest of the defense want to do the same thing. And that's where we got our first 2 interceptions of the year. And Christian Jones was able to force a fumble. So it starts up front, goes to the linebackers, and then, like you said, Kyle Fuller, Joe Flacco targeted him 3 times in the red zone, trying to get a touchdown there with different receivers, and Kyle Fuller didn't have any of it. He didn't allow any of those passes to go through. And our 2 safeties, the rookie Eddie Jackson out of Alabama and Adrian Amos, who was actually benched. He was our starter for 2 years, then was benched in favor of Quentin Demps, the veteran out of Houston. Both those are playing very well right now, too. Very good in run support, and Adrian Amos just had his first career interception that he took back to the house against the Ravens. So right now we're all just firing on all cylinders, and hopefully that energy for the Bears keeps up, because that was a lot of fun to watch.
All right, let's get last question for you, and we'll get you out of here. Is this: what's the recipe for beating the Chicago Bears right now?
You kind of touched on this already. If you can just limit the offense, the lack of reliable receivers that Trubisky has is obviously an issue. So if the ground game can't get established, it will be tough for the Bears to win, because when Jordan Howard has 20 or more carries in a game, the Bears are 5-1. So if the Panthers can force turnovers, draw penalties, or force the Bears to have miscues somewhere, that kind of flusters this young offense. After the first kickoff return against the Ravens, when no one touched the guy, Cody Whitehair, center, had a bad snap over Trubisky's head, and everyone just kind of seemed like they were trying to do a little too much. So if you can fluster the Bears offense somehow, that's definitely going to be the recipe as far as beating them.
So it sounds like every John Fox team ever in the history of the planet.
It does, doesn't it?
And
Yeah,
that
pretty
is
much.
if they run the ball effectively.
Play good defense.
Let me ask you: Have you heard him say this statement? Either it is what it is, or a punt is not a bad play.
If I could count on my hands the number of times I've heard that, I would hold it up for you, but I don't think I can do that.
A punt is not a bad play. But you know what? Is that his offensive coordinator told him a fake punt is a better play.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right,
man. Well, hey, I
Brandon,
hope
thanks
you win
a
lot of
ton
games.
for.
I hope you win a lot of games the rest of the year, just not this Sunday.
Yeah,
Well, thank you.
definitely.
I appreciate that. Hopefully we can face off in the championship game then.
There you go. That'd be
Exactly.
fun. That'd be fun.
All right, that's Brandon Hazlet. Tell them where they can find your work, Brandon.
Yep, you can find us on our website at thebearsbros.com. You can follow us on Twitter at thebearsbros. You can search us on Facebook, The Bears Brothers, and you can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn Radio, and Stitcher Radio.
Fantastic. You were great on the show tonight. We look forward to getting back in touch with you in the future, particularly if we get to the playoffs together. Can't wait to see how that goes down. And best of luck to you, man.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Good luck on Sunday.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah,
Take care,
thank
man.
you. All
Thank
right,
you.
guys, let's keep pounding through this. And speaking of, let's just segue to that real quickly. Sam Mills, this was the week. This is the NFL has switched gears to all of cancer support rather than just breast cancer. I feel like it's almost like them saying, we got sick of D'Angelo Williams talking junk. So we decided to bring in more people to make us look even cooler to the world. But the Panthers had this great thing with Sam Mills. Greg Olson narrates this before the game, as also they did It's a Football Life, right? That's the name of the show.
30 for 30, or was it a football life? It was one of the two.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it
Football
was a
Life, I
Football
think.
Life. I think, and they did the Sam Mills special. I've not yet had a chance to check it out, but I thought Greg Golson did a nice job before the game. The keep pounding and how much Sam Mills meant to this team. Mel, could you speak on that just for a moment before we jump to the last segment of the show?
Well, I mean, that's the very heartbeat of what this team is and what this city is. And I was at the game Thursday night, man, and I tell you, when that was up on the big screen and they were doing keep pounding, I mean, the hairs on my arm stood up just a little bit because that's why you love the Panthers. Is A, it represents the city and the area and the region that we love, and B, it represents a community that believes in when the chips are down, you that's what you do is you keep pounding, and I love it. It's not just a cheap slogan; it's a way of life, and I love it.
All right, I want to know what this is. Britt, who is Britt on the show? All right, so Britt needs to host the show, is what someone says. Lynn said that Brandon had a sexy voice, and and also that Jordan Rodrigue needs to come back on the show. Jordan Rodrigue, man, I think she's in hiding at the moment.
I think she got on Thieves Avenue and then realized she wasn't on the map anymore. I think she's stuck on Thieves Avenue.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be. I think give her a couple more weeks. I think you might, man. It might be a minute before you see Jordan Rodrigue right back. But I'd love to hear these. I would love to do.
We'd love to have her back on the show, though.
Yeah, I'd love to have her on the show, and I'd love to have a takeover episode where we get the girl gang or someone to host our show, and you take over our podcast, and I'll help produce it. That would be fun, I think, one week to do.
I agree.
All right.
Hey, to Tony and Joe, would you guys agree? I'll agree. Will y'all agree? We'll give our salary for the show to whoever wants to do it.
Yeah, I'll double it. It.
Right. Sweet.
We'll take that 0, we'll times it times 2, and we'll divide it by 4, and you guys will get the royalties and everything. All right, guys, let's get in and do the cat calls for this week, all right? Let me see if I got all this queued up. Let's see if it works this week.
I bet the Atlanta troll doesn't call in this week. After that,
what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty. You shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So, how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like.
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in his nose? Who's that kid that can use one?
Despite what happened last week against the Philadelphia Eagles, I still think Carolina has a lot of the right things to go far this season. One thing that was kind of questionable is how long they played linebacker and receivers in that game, so it would be kind of interesting to see them change that up. I don't know, maybe even a dime situation, but I kind of doubt that'll ever happen because Luke's out. But that was just some quick thoughts, possibilities, but definitely a strong defense they have, so thanks for taking my call.
All right, I do want to touch on that. We'll get right back into the calls. The 3 linebackers on the field, guys, I think he's right. I think that no matter the talent you got, I think there's been a liability on this team where we saw Shaq Thompson having to match up against Nelson Aguilar in that game. So what are your guys' thoughts on that? But I brought this up on the sports bar, going to the nickel and the dime, and Clip brought up something that was important is, do you have the personnel, though, to run the nickel and the dime at the moment when your secondary is thin and not doing too well?
That's a great point. I think there's pluses and minuses to the Buffalo nickel, and when you're playing a quarterback that gets the ball out quick, and let me tell you, Carson Wentz is a quarterback on the rise. That cat's going to be really good.
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah, so when you're playing one of the better quarterbacks in the league, that Buffalo nickel can be exposed. Now, I happen to think it'll be a little bit better against a young guy like Trubisky this week. But yeah, that's your exposure, man. I mean, you could play well against the tight end, but when they take the tight end out, you're still in that same formation, and you've got the slot receiver, and you've got a Buffalo nickel covering somebody like Aguilar. You can get caught with your drawers down.
Easily.
Yeah, I think it's been a liability for us more than we wish it was at this point. So I agree with them on that. I do think, though, you got to have the corners to run out all those nickel and those other formations. All right, let's keep going.
Hey, this is Jada. Man, all y'all been on Shula. He's doing so great. He's doing so good. How many second and longs do we have today? For no goddamn apparent reason other than he wants to be cute. These were second best defense in the league. We're third. But they had a 29th ranked pass defense, and we didn't take advantage of it. We're going to try to run and be cute the whole game. The whole game. They were in the second long, third long, hopefully third medium. Like, this is what I said. Shula, like, just because we won against the Patriots and had a good all-around game, just because we won against Detroit and had an all-around game, that does not take away the glaring problem, which is Shula is just sometimes idiotic. I just don't. I really don't get it. Like, I didn't get it to the games we won. You guys were all the ones like, oh, Shula, it was great. It was great calling. He did good. No. He has never done good. He calls stupid freaking plays. I call him all the time. Like, I know I'm a above average fan and everything, but I call him all the time. He does this shit over and over and over. And when we lost, Luke, like, I mean, what are you gonna do? You're gonna rip my heart out my defense? Like, well, what do you want? I mean, we can put Julius Peppers in every freaking play, but that doesn't give me my heart back. Man, Luke, I hope you're back, man. It shows concussion, so it's probably 4 to 5 weeks. Let's see how we do now. I don't know, though. But that offense, man. I don't know. Yeah, they use McCaffrey better. No, even only one. Shula is not creative. He is not good. I will take this to my grave. Like,
we need J-Dub on the show.
Never been good. Yeah, we won a few games. Like I said, everyone showed up. Everyone did their duties. It wasn't like he was setting us up to win. He actually set us up in the line of those second and longs, third and longs, which he did today. Dude, the second and longs today just blew my mind. Like, we're gonna go from first and 10 to second and like 15, like, just because we can. I mean, I'm serious. Like, this is a serious freaking problem. I know. I did this when we lost to Orleans, only 1-2, and I did this all the time. But I'm telling you, even when we win, he's not the greatest, man. He's so conservative. He's so obvious. Like, I literally know half the street. The one he did to Christian today where he drew him over to the other side, the whole defensive away and everything. And they knew what was going to happen. Like, they knew it was going to happen.
Hey, y'all, it's Gordon from Charlotte again. I'm sure by this point y'all will have picked apart everything about all of our shortcomings in the game. I do want to make sure that everyone realizes we lost to the number 1 seed in the NFC right now. Eagles are looking surprisingly good. I thought this game was going to be a walkover looking at it 3 weeks ago. Clearly I was wrong. The other 2 games were clearly more walkover. What I do want to say, though, is what the hell, Falcons? You have the easiest game on your schedule against the Dolphins. You're up 17-0, and you blow it. And now you head... I actually don't know whether they're playing in New England or not. Now you play New England next? Oh, y'all are going to have fun this week. All of those 28-3 things coming back? Yeah. Have fun with that, Falcons fans. See y'all next week.
Oh, yes, Panther Nation.
Oh, my God.
It's your boy, the famous famous Scotty Jurassic.
I thought we were
love
done
you
with
guys
this.
hate
I'm
me,
surprised
but
he called.
anyway, oh, the Falcons, man, they pulled Cam Newton, and they blew the game.
What?
But we're coming for you. You might be in first place now. Enjoy it, because it won't last. Keep pounding.
Oh, what a D-bag. Oh, excuse me.
Nobody says that now, Nutter, like you say that now, Nutter. All right. So that's the C3 Cat Calls line. You can get on the action by hitting up the hotline. The voicemail box is open 24/7. 252-228-5098. That's 252-228-5098. Call and leave a message. You can have your therapeutic moment like J-Dub. That J-Dub call I saw came in after the game. So that's like 1 a.m. And J-Dub took it. I think there's a 3-minute limit. And J-Dub took it to the limit. I think the voicemail cuts you off at 3 minutes. So you could always just call back and get your second half in. J-Dub was in his feelings in that one. And
but I see you learned your lesson last week to screen the calls before they come on.
I actually don't have a problem with the bad language. I don't have a problem with it, but I've been hanging out with Clip on Pirate Radio a lot, and he can't use it on his show, but he goes, I think the beeps make it funnier.
Yeah.
And I agree with it. It really makes you know what's up and get to giggle at the same time. So yeah, I did learn my lesson. By the way, I was doing that at 8:35. And that's why we went live. How about this? Did you guys see that we went live while we were getting set up on YouTube? Like all of a sudden we're just live, just talking about. Thank God Mel won't talking about wrestling like he usually is, and we're all like, whatever those wrestling dudes are doing. The number is 252-228-5098. In fact, everybody that is listening to the show now, if you're listening later, when you get to a stoplight, you're in the gym, take a pause, put this number in your contacts, 252-228-5098. And we'd love to hear from you after the game, before the game, from the game. We love to get that fan perspective and to feature those calls on this show. It makes it so much more fun than just listening to these three jokers all the time. All right, guys, we've got to keep powering through. We've got to get our picks in this week, and I hope that you guys does anybody have the schedule pulled up?
I do. You got Atlanta going to New England.
Okay, let's start with Atlanta in New. By the way, here let's go through our picks last week. It looks like Mel picked. Did I write them down last week? Holy cow!
I have to go back to the tape.
That's good. Is this week 7?
This is yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if I wrote them down last week. I must have wrote them on a piece of paper. I know that I lost the Lions. I lost the Lions game in New Orleans. Mel, who'd you have?
I lost that one too.
You picked the Saints. You picked the Saints. You bullied me.
Oh, that's right.
You bullied me twice. And then I also picked the Bucks over. I think I went an over again.
Would not be the first time.
God, this is terrible. All right, I gotta.
But you know what? The good news about the Panthers' loss is now I don't have to pick against the Panthers, making them win. So now I can get back to where I can pick the Panthers to win, because I picked them to lose last week and they lost. So I pick up one on you guys there. But if you can follow that train of thought, that kind of is a free.
Maybe I should pick up your logic and just pick whatever the opposite of what I want to pick. All right, let's start with that Falcons game. Falcons at Patriots.
I am going with the Patriots only because I cannot pick the freaking Falcons to save my life. They probably will win, but I'm taking the Patriots at home.
Yeah, I think that's the right play there because I think the Pats are coming back and really want to show something.
But they are not as good as they were. They are not. They should have lost to the Jets.
Yes, they're nowhere near the team that they were last year.
And on paper, they're supposed to be better. It's hard. Their fans have got to be going crazy up there. But,
I'm picking the Falcons on the road.
Sucks. It does. But that means they'll lose.
Yep. All right. All right. Next is Panthers at Bears. I'm going to go ahead and start this one off. I'm picking the Panthers. I always pick the Panthers.
I thought you were going to take up my slack.
Nope.
Not on that one.
I learned my lesson. I picked against the Panthers against the Patriots and never again. I didn't learn it last week, though, where I picked the Panthers and they lost.
Well, so that means you should be taking one from the team, man. You should flip it. What you say? Drop it in reverse and flip it. Oh, well.
All right, who you got, Joe? Panthers or Bears?
Yeah, Panthers.
All right, Mel?
I'm switching it up here, man. I'm going Panthers.
Okay.
First time I picked it in 3 weeks.
Who's next on the schedule is Saints at Packers?
Yep.
Can the Saints win 4 in a row? Is that what it will be?
That team scares me, y'all.
That team is on fire, dude.
They lost their first 2 games, and they've been untouchable since.
On fire, like lit and fuego.
Yep.
And fuego. Who you got, Mel?
I'm definitely going Saints in that one with Aaron Rodgers out.
Joe?
Totally taking the Packers.
You totally changed. You tricked me, man.
It's a hard place to play. They've had a week to prepare. What's his name?
Brett Hundley.
Brett Hundley.
They've had a week to prepare him, and I think they're going to rely more on the running game.
You know what? We had a week to prepare Jimmy Clausen.
Yeah, but we're talking about Jimmy Clausen.
Yeah.
When you're bad, you're bad.
So I think I take the Pack. They're going to run the ball a lot, and that's going to open up the passing game. And the Falcons' defensive backs have sucked.
I hope you're right.
I mean, the Falcons have the Saints.
What?
The Saints should be losing these games, but they're winning. I think they cool off in the frozen tundra of Green.
I hope you're right, man.
I'm picking the Saints. God, I think Joe's right, though. I mean, I think some people are saying this is that it's mixed reviews. But right now they are on fire and fuego, and I say that they melt the frozen tundra, Joe, with their infuego-ness. All right, last game is Bucks at, or are they at home? Where are they on the schedule? Bucks at Bills. Ooh, this is good. So this is a sneaky, tough game to pick right here. I'm gonna start off, and I'm picking the Bills at home. Even though I think the Bucks have just been playing terrible and are better than they are, but Jameis Winston got a busted old shoulder. Joe, who you got, Bills or Bucks?
In Buffalo?
Yeah, in Buffalo.
Yeah, I'm going to go Bills, man. I think, again, the Bills, they're going to look to run the ball, play that solid defense. The Bucks defense has been okay, but I like the Bills at home. I like McDermott and that defense.
All right, Mel, who you
got? What's his face? Winston has a bum shoulder.
And the Bills had a bye last week, right?
They did.
Yeah, so they've had a lot of time to prepare. Winston has got the gimp shoulder, and it sounds like a sprained AC joint, which that just always sounds funny to me, your AC joint.
You need AC when you live in Florida. Right.
No AC needed in Buffalo this week because Mel, who you got?
Well, everything about this says the Bills are going to win this. It really does. However, I got to catch up to Joe, and I'm going to say with Fitzpatrick coming back to Buffalo to prove that he never should have been let go, that's always a motivating factor. And it's been such an upside-down type of year with the Giants beating the Broncos. Who would have – nobody picked that game. I'm going to take the Buccaneers to win this.
All right. Okay, those are our picks for the week. Tony doesn't know how to pick the division. I had a bad week just all around last week. I've been doing pretty good we do picks on Pirate Radio each week. I've been kind of like an 8-4 type guy, 10-3. And then last week, I've stayed above 500 every week. And then last week I went 5-8. It was terrible.
It's been a crazy year, man, I tell you. But, Joe, we got to go back to the tape. We got to get our numbers back up to date. We got to figure out where we are.
We'll go back. Willie picked for Joe last week.
Oh, okay.
So, all right. So, okay. That's it for right now. And then let's move on. We got one last segment to get into, and then let's close this sucker out.
Drop the ice.
All right, this is the longest running segment on the C3 Carolina Panthers podcast. It's our homage to Steve Smith. It is the Ice Up segment where we tell someone to ice up, to toughen up, to get their act together. Everyone is fair game, from 12-year-olds in Oklahoma to the president and past presidents of the United States to, I think, everything that you could possibly think of has been iced up in
including
this case.
bad poopers.
Yeah. So, Mel, you gonna bring it first tonight?
Oh, I'll bring it, man. I tell you, I've been sitting on this one for a while, and it's low hanging fruit, but it's a player on the team that, man, is really. I mean, people are making excuses for him, saying that the offensive line has been really shoddy. Which, hey, you know, we don't have the worst offensive line in the league. I can tell you that. Trey Turner, Andrew Norwell, pretty darn good run blockers. I watched a lot of plays, and when you're averaging 2.9 yards per carry with a total of 247 yards through 6 weeks, and you've got 2 turnovers one in our red zone, one in the opposing team's red zone, it's time to wake up and to ice up big time, Jay Stu. I'm telling you, I know that you're closer to retirement. I hear you just bought a house up there in the state of Washington. Your eyes are on the retirement goal line. Dude, bring Cameron Artis-Payne in. Put a cap in the Panthers offense. Get this going because this season is too important. You got too much talent. Julius Peppers won't be around forever. Cam is at the top of his game. We don't know how much longer we're going to have Luke and Thomas Davis and these guys. We got to make a run this year, and we can't have the weak link in our backfield. Jonathan Stewart, either get out or ice up and get ready. Ice up.
All right, Joe, what you got for us this week?
All right, mine's fairly simple, straightforward. Hillary Clinton, the champion of women's rights and feminism, big hypocrite, taking money from Harvey Weinstein, like major donations from Harvey Weinstein, while all this, these rumors about his sexual prowess, no, that's the wrong word, being a sexual predator has been around for a long, long time. And it's just really now coming out, but, he's been dealing with this secretly for a very long time, paying off people and that, hush money kind of thing. Well, she's nevertheless been willing to accept these campaign donations. And it's not only from him, but from nations, Muslim nations where women are treated as second-class citizens, and women do not have any rights. Women are, often treated like slaves or worse, even. So, it's just, it makes me sick to see it. I mean, it's all over politics, but, with sexual harassment being so forefront in the media right now, I just find it sad. that someone who claims to be so adamant for women's rights and, making sure women are considered equal would be willing to take so much money from people who think of women as lesser than equal. So ice up for your acceptance.
Ice up. All right. My ice up pick goes with a recommendation, something to listen to this week. I just started. A friend of mine sent me a message. I think it was 2 days ago or maybe even last night. And I started listening to it. It was last night I started listening to it. And I've been binge listening to a podcast. You have to be an Amazon Prime member. And you can listen to it on audible.com. It is The Untold Story of the Dark Web. So the dark web is the secret internet that exists. And what I'm going to ice up tonight is the fake and fraudulent war on drugs and the fake and fraudulent legal system that picks and chooses how to punish people, and I feel like has mixed priorities. There are people in this world who have committed very heinous crimes who are out of jail in moments. And this guy by the name of Ross Ulbright, who started this dark web thing called the Silk Road, which was essentially a Craigslist of the dark web, but it was a big, like a $1.3 billion drug market that emerged on the dark web. So anyway, this guy, he's caught in this sting operation, and all he has done is facilitated the website. He doesn't sell drugs. He doesn't. Now there is one moment where he was not charged with this, but there is something that somebody snitched on him, and supposedly he did order a hit on them. So now in that case, I will say that prosecuting that person is rightful, but they didn't charge him with that. Anyway, Ross Ulbright, for his internet drug Craigslist, which wasn't only regulated to drugs and was a monitored community in many ways, received 2 life sentences without the opportunity of parole. Whoa. So the guy, I mean, they threw him in jail and threw away the key.
Threw him under the jail.
Yeah, to make an example out of this person in the dark web. Why I am calling all this out is, first of all, the Silk Road, which was just the first of these, according to this podcast, has just been replaced by bigger and badder versions of this. So the dark web, if you guys don't know, is the anonymous web where anybody can be a part of it. And ironically, it was created by the U.S. government to protect spies. So here's the thing, is the dark web is something that you can access and be an anonymous traveler on the internet in this secret internet world. It was created by the government. And then this guy who made this giant enterprise is thrown in jail forever. Forever. And not that I'm saying that any of that is cool. I just felt like, gosh, that is a little over the top, that you can't even give my man the opportunity, a 25-year-old, that he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison for running a website. I think that's kind of
unusual punishment right there, man. That's what I said.
So here, I do recommend everybody, if you are an Amazon Prime listener, to go and listen to The Untold Story of the Dark Web. I listened today about a whole episode about the creation of the Bitcoin. It's totally fascinating. I love it. And I'm icing up all of that associated with the darkness of the legal system. And guys, I figured out why the website is not blowing up as much as we want it to. Turns out I mistakenly published it on the dark web which people don't know how to get to.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
But you can. It's crazy. Go listen to it. It's awesome. Check it out. To all of those weirdness in society where we want to punish this dude for a website worse than we want to punish a murderer. I say ice up.
Nice.
All right.
Well done.
Okay, guys, that is the C3 podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com.
Hey,
I blasted you out with that music.
Let me
Go ahead.
Let me give you a big shout out to all the folks out there in the YouTube chat room, man. This show has really just exploded in the last year, and it's really because of you guys. Everybody just getting involved, being a part of the show. Tony, you do a great job of incorporating the comments into the whole conversation. It's
Yeah, definitely, guys. We appreciate all of that, all the support. The chat room is going crazy. You're right. The show has been exploding. The listenership on podcasts is almost over doubled in the last 2 months. We've done some small things that have helped this, but really it's because we've got these great friends. They're not listeners. They're not fans of the show. There are friends and people and members of Panther Nation that we just get the pleasure of hanging out with on Tuesday night. This is a C3 podcast brought to you by Carolina Cat Chronicles, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinion from the fan perspective. We do it with each other and with y'all, and we welcome you to keep coming back and to give the show a share, a subscribe, and maybe even consider supporting. How about this? Consider even writing a review on iTunes. That would be phenomenal for us, or dropping a comment in the YouTube section. Mel, tell them how they can get after you on Twitter. Until next week.
Catch me anytime on Twitter at Panthers Drafter. Happy to talk about anything Panthers, anything Charlotte, anything sports related.
Joe Riolano, how can they follow you, my friend?
Guys, follow me on Twitter at Joe Riolano. Hey, I appreciate all you guys tuning in and participating in the chat room tonight. It's great. I mean, having you guys so active and enjoying the show and participating in the show, it really is fun for us. We enjoy it and we appreciate it. Those of you who are willing to, make a call. We've got that cat calls for you guys. Don't be shy. Get on the phone and let us hear what you have to say.
That's right. Bring it, guys. We'll see you next Tuesday night, 9 p.m. live. Until then, keep pounding.